What is the greatest match in WWE history? Objectively, there's no real answer. Everybody has different tastes and different ideas of what makes a match great. To you, The Fiend vs. Goldberg might be an abomination, but to me, it should be held with the same level of reverence as the Shawshank Redemption. The closest thing we have to true consensus on the matter is CageMatch.net. The ultra-detailed wrestling database offers all kinds of facts and stats on almost every match ever, while also encouraging users to rate what they've watched. It's the closest thing we have to a democratic opinion, kind of like the wrestling version of IMDb, even if things are definitely a little bit skewed. In effort to find the true greatest matches in WWE history, we trawled the archives. The results of this great collaborative process are interesting, let's say that. Cage Match users might be online, but are they on the money? I'm Andy from What Culture. We're here to find out. Here are the 10 best WWE matches ever according to the internet. Number 10, Chris Benoit vs. Shawn Michaels vs. Triple H from WrestleMania 20 at 9.58 out of 10. Now, I'm not going to throw roses at this match for obvious reasons. The brutal and devastating reality of it all completely overshadows the physicality of this highly rated WrestleMania 20 main event. This is the only time Benoit or Triple H actually feature on this list. We'll talk about Shawn Michaels a little bit later on, but Hunter's omission in particular might come as a surprise given his reputation today, particularly amongst younger fans. Is this the best WWE match that Triple H has ever participated in? Internet, I think we disagree. Number 9, Tyler Bate vs. Walter, NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, 9.58 out of 10. Here we have the third WWE match ever to break Dave Meltzer's 5-star scale, following on from Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano's 2 bangers earlier in 2019. Neither of those, however, are actually on the list. Walter vs. Bate here is perhaps one of the glossiest no BS matches in WWE history. As Walter and Tyler Bate knocked the piss out of each other, the UK Championship had never felt more important. So it's kind of appropriate that around Gunther's waist here in 2023, the Intercontinental title is currently riding a 25-year high. The guy makes titles great. Number 8, the Dudley Boys vs. Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys from WrestleMania X7, 9.59 out of 10. Now you're talking my language. The greatest spot fest of all time on the greatest WWE show of all time? I rate it highly, and so does the internet. Rightly so, because TLC 2 was the stipulation's peak, and the combatants deserve credit not only for assembling something as special as they did, but for doing so under the sort of pressure that would have ground others into dust. One of the greatest and most over-the-top chaos matches in WWE history, the Hardys, Dudleys, and Edge and Christian artfully escalated the danger with such lightness of touch that almost nothing felt constructive, despite the level of care needed to assemble every terrifying scene. Number 7, The Revival vs. DIY, NXT TakeOver Toronto, 9.60 out of 10. A highly rated NXT classic, but not the highest rated NXT match on the list. This is, however, the highest rated tag team match on the list. It is one of the crown jewels of NXT Black and Gold and an absolute triumph on every single level. Expertly crafted by DIY and The Revival, whose dizzying, complex exchanges married perfectly with the classic timeless tropes, genuine innovation, and a crowd frothing at the gills to get the finale they craved. This came at the time NXT was pivoting away from being the little brand that could to an established super indie under WWE's umbrella. It was a pivotal step in doing so, and there's a reason FTR still repeat that hand-holding submission spot to this date. It is one of the greatest images in modern WWE history. Number 6, Ilya Dragunov vs. Walter, NXT TakeOver 36, 9.64 out of 10. A phenomenal WXW rivalry spilled over into WWE. Walter vs. Dragunov was as compelling on big American stages as it was on smaller German stages, building on the stories told elsewhere to craft something beautiful that didn't compromise on brutality at all, despite the shiny new setting. Walter had been UK champion for 870 days at the time he was established as WWE's biggest big bad. Dragunov knew it more than most, and after waiting 10 months for a second shot shot at the belt, he put his body through hell and scored the most cathartic victory imaginable. After 22 absorbing minutes, his emotional breakdown was as arresting as his physical breakdown. When your back is as messed up as your chest and you're facing Walter and his chops, you know you've had a hard shift. Number 5, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 25, 9.64 out of 10. This one is probably going to raise the most eyebrows on this list. A lot of WWE fans, at the very least, would have this slotted in at, I don't know, the top 3 maybe? The cage match in May do not. And to be fair, there are only marginal gaps between Michaels versus Undertaker and the matches above it. Nonetheless, this is the WrestleMania match when it comes to Shawn Michaels' brand of drama. It was a big, bombastic, big theater popcorn match of the highest order. The wrestling equivalent of a gigronkous Hollywood blockbuster, this is the highest rated match that either man has on the list. Number 4, CM Punk versus John Cena, Money in the Bank 2011, 9.64 out of 10. Unquestionably a match elevated by circumstances and maybe the hottest wrestling crowd ever, Punk vs Cena still hits like a quadruple shot of caffeine right to the veins. Chicago was ablaze for their hometown boy, CM Punk, as he marched into war against the physical embodiment of the WWE machine he so angrily raged against. And yes, the wheels did come off the summer of Punk eventually, shoutouts to Kevin Nash texting himself, but on a night when the wrestling world genuinely thought that CM Punk was going to walk out of WWE as a free agent world champion, felt like the biggest thing in the universe. Number 3, Bret Hart versus Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13, 9.65 out of 10. If you're a seasoned wrestling fan and are old as hell, like me, you might make the case that this is objectively the best match in WWE history. Now, I don't necessarily think that the objective best in a subjective art form actually exists, but either way, the famous double turn match should be hung in an art gallery alongside other pieces of phenomenal craftsmanship like the Mona Lisa and Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water. There aren't enough bona fide classics that just speak loudly enough for themselves in this era of extreme content bloat. This, thankfully, is one of them. It's a masterpiece. Number 2, Ilya Dragunov versus Walter, NXT UK, 9.66 out of 10. The absolute peak of the empty arena era is right here, as Walter and Ilya Dragunov lit up each other and an empty BT Sports studio in an incredible, flesh-peeling battle, the likes of which we may never see again, thanks to the environment. Okay, look, wrestling without fans was mostly pish. It sucked the life out of our great sport, but here, Walter and Ilya actually used that to their advantage. Devoid of noise from fans and gathered masses, the building was instead filled with the disgusting sounds of flesh hitting flesh, bodies being dropped all over the place, and the grunts, screams, and roars of all-out war. It's a rare example of the empty arena setting kind of working in the match's favor, and the match, I mean, yeah, it's obviously great. And at number 1, the internet voted greatest WWE match ever, Andrade Almas versus Johnny Gargano, NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, 9.66 out of 10. Here we are then, the greatest WWE match of all time, according to the internet, and perhaps the start of the era of NXT main events chasing insane levels of critical acclaim. This is an entry that will absolutely leave some people maybe a little bit confused, maybe a little bit pissed off, and to be honest, while I absolutely adore this match myself, I'm not sure I agree that it's the greatest match in WWE history, but the internet, or at least Cage Match, has spoken. Gargano versus Andrade, to be fair, is an absolute ripper, well worth 5 of anyone's stars, pitting a sympathetic never say die babyface against a hard-hitting bastard of a boy who had finally found his feet after a pretty awkward start to life in WWE. Gargano gained more here in defeat than he ever could have in victory, and it was painfully clear how his rivalry with Tommaso Ciampa needed to be settled before he stood another chance of competing for NXT's biggest prize. Anyway guys, that's what the internet thinks, but what do you think? In my view, there's definitely a little bit of recency bias here, but debating these omissions is part of the fun, so let us know down in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Then you can follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE and myself at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Hey Internet, where was the Fiend versus Goldberg? You guys suck. You don't really. I love you, but come on guys, it's a classic. Goodbye.